Hi, Abram. I've checked a few lines here, and just about everything's correct as far as I can see. One thing I noticed is that with this series of three cube-like boxes above the horizon line on the right, the middle one seems to have a bottom right edge that's not agreeing with its eclipsed corner. So there's a corner behind the box below, and things should match up with that corner. All right, now, what more can I say about yours? Well, this horizontal box on the horizon line in the middle is an oddity. It's a curiosity. It looks a bit like ductwork or maybe a periscope. It's uncanny that it should be suspended by just one, what looks like a short leg at the far right. When I look at the boxes above the horizon line, or maybe it's two intersecting boxes there at left, I'm wondering why two of the edges of the larger box are not darkened as all the other boxes have their edges darkened. Christopher, you're one among a few people to whom I'd like to introduce the idea of an eraser shield. Now, you may have met with this before in your reading or just generally to do with drawing, but I love this tool. I've always got one tucked into my sketchbook, and by the way, it's better to keep it in a book than in a pencil case because it'll get dented or bent out of shape. So I'd suggest you look for one of these. They're usually 99 cents or 50 cents. And this enables you to get in there and tidy up corners. You can even use the edge of it like a small ruler. Well, hi Sarah, thanks for posting early, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to look at this before just now. I did straighten it up. Notice that it looks crooked here in the review. That's because I made the horizon line horizontal, and this is something you can do in Photoshop. And I'd say that your drawing itself looks marvelous. What needs work is the dressing up of it and perhaps even the photography. So see my directions elsewhere about photographing. Photographing in daylight other than direct sun is your best bet. And then in Photoshop you should be able to edit, transform, rotate, or you could go, let's see, image, rotate, and arbitrary, for example. Now, what's more, this image could be lightened. For that, I would do layer, new adjustment layer, brightness, and contrast. Hi, Clavert, this looks pretty good. You can see when I make a fine line, it might be that you don't have your horizon line horizontal here, and that's affecting, for instance, the rightmost edge of the right box. My line is a perfect horizontal for comparison. Now, I noticed that you're using a very heavy line all around the box forms, and you can do that, but I think if you make your guidelines lighter, things will be better. And I do those guidelines in, say, a 2H pencil or maybe even a 4H. I noticed that you're doing some erasing here, and I am guessing the erasing is going on in Photoshop. I would suggest that you erase on the drawing itself to begin with. Take a look at that eraser shield pictured below that I was mentioning to Christopher. Further, if you decide to erase in Photoshop, sample the white color of the paper and maybe use the paintbrush versus the eraser for correcting. And one other thing you can do is use the healing brush, or let's see, there's one more, the clone stamp, and each of those want you to sample an area. If you go to Photoshop Help, you'll get a little bit of direction on how to use those. Mainly, I think you won't need any of that if you draw with a lighter hand, and also, if you're drawing on a desk that's slanted, you're going to be resting your arm on your paper less and getting less smudging. I'm wondering if you're a lefty. Dana, this looks pretty good. I read that you outline things in ink, and I really think that that should not be necessary. In fact, I will tell you, just don't do it, because in a drawing, of this nature, we want to be able to make adjustments and use tools such as erasers and the eraser shield. So I noticed that there's some corners that aren't quite as neat, and I think that's what you're referring to when you mentioned that you'd had some smudges. Um, And there's a note: if you must work in ink for some other purpose, I would say wait overnight before dusting your drawing off to avoid such problems. Let's see. Very curiously, these two boxes closest to center, a little to the left there, seem to share the same edge, though we wouldn't expect that. That orthogonal that I've drawn over seems to be the right bottom edge for the top box and the top left edge for the bottom box. What a curiosity. Otherwise, things look good.